It's the final season preview episode today. Deep dive into the Pacers point guards, Andrew Nembhard, TJ McConnell, and Delon Wright under the microscope, plus a little Tyrese Haliburton. We get to all of it today on the Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Happy Monday, and welcome into another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the Indiana Pacers. As always, my name's Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes, and today it's Media Day. Congratulations. You made it through the offseason. We all made it through the offseason. For those who kept listening when the Pacers weren't playing, thank you very much. It was a fun offseason. We covered a lot of fun stuff. But today, it's the last season preview-y thing because the Pacers haven't talked yet, and we can look ahead. And it's the point guard positional preview. I saved them for last one in inverse position order, just in case the Pacers decided to add a point guard. Lucky me. This episode, waiting, was not for naught. We'll get to Delon Wright today, TJ McConnell, Andrew Nembhard. We'll touch a tiny bit on Tyrese Haliburton because I actually do have a question about his season to a small extent, to the extent that it even matters. As we've been doing with this format, one question, one skill, and one stat that will be defining for each player this season. Not like a comprehensive season preview, but a good way that I like to look at it, especially as it pertains to the thoughts I have about each player. If you're interested about Cam Jones, we did him in the shooting guards to make it all work out great. Okay, we will lead with Andrew Nembhard, who has such an interesting season coming his way, a position he's played before, but not so much in the NBA, and he's going to be asked to do kind of a lot on both ends. So there's going to be a lot of questions about his development, but also his actual successes, right? There's been a lot of like, oh, he could still be better this year and this year. And like, yeah, that's great. He's got to actually be good this year. And my one stat for Andrew Nembhard is really two stats that combine into one stat and tell the same story, because Andrew Nembhard is now the lead floor general for an NBA team that has aspirations to somewhat win or whatever you want to say. The front office talked about what they hoped this Pacers season would look like last week, right? And in general, it's not going to be exactly how the Pacers used to play, but they want to keep trying to do that, right? It's the identity they've built that's made them so good. And they want to try to win with what they have. They have good players. Some of that could be useful for when Haliburton returns and however many seasons that he is still awesome for their team, right? So 2026, 27 onward. And so that means for this season, if that balance stays toward playing like they have, it's going to require Andrew Nembhard to play not like Tyrese Haliburton, but like lead that style. And last year, Andrew Nembhard, here are the stats now that I've kind of talked about while I read it. He had a 22.5% assist percentage. So that's the percentage of his assists while he's on the floor of his team. His turnover rate, 15.8%. Turnovers per 100 plays, right? That was his career high, both numbers. So those numbers are pretty big, right? That turnover rate is pretty high compared to the rest of the Pacers. In fact, it was fourth on the Pacers last year, but two of the guys above him were James Johnson and Moses Brown, whatever. It was basically Jarris and then Andrew Nembhard. And Jarris turnovers have been a thing for him for forever. So Nembhard, it's been a thing. His handle's too loose. Got to clean up some turnovers. But his assist rate's also not like that high. It's solid, right? But it's not so high. Like Ray J. Dennis's was 4% higher last year. In the entire NBA last year, 33 players met that threshold of both assist percentage and turnover percentage. Nembhard's assist percentage was 30th of those 33 players. Now, granted, his turnover rate was also closer to the bottom of that group, 28th out of the 33. But like of the like moderately high turnover and assist guys, he's like in the lower end assist group of that. That's what, I mean, a million things make Tyrese Haliburton special. But the part of it as it relates to the Pacers' identity that always goes understated is how low turnover it all is. And so not only is Andrew Nembhard going to be asked to be a better passer this season, right? He's going to have to improve his floor general skills, quick decision-making skills, setup skills for others. Everybody knows that part. How much can he be like Ty and do it with low turnovers or no turnovers or just extreme level of caretaker that makes the Pacers so awesome? Because last year, look, the Pacers were a great team. Their offense was quite good. They weren't like so terrific when it came to like per possession true shooting. Their effective field goal percentage was very good, but they weren't like blowing teams out of the water, making shots 20. Excuse me, I just almost said a stat wrong. But their possession battle game was phenomenal, right? Never turned it over. Good enough on the defensive glass. to always be shooting as much as their team. Andrew Nembhard's got to lead that style, and that's why key stats to monitor for him this season are going to be those, because if he is going to run the show, he's going to have to, and they're going to play that way, he's going to have to improve in both of those areas. And it's stuff that he can do and has shown high levels of skill in, just not all the time. My one skill, speaking of the word skill, I would have defaulted to threes because Andrew Nembhard said it himself on the Hello Welcome podcast last week in Canada. Very good stuff. They asked him about being a playoff riser and his 3-point percentage. And he was like, dude, I got to make better threes in the regular season. 29% last year. But I'm not going to default to threes. One, that's boring. Two, he said it. So I'll go through my own. My answer is drives. And specifically getting to the cup, and even more specifically, what he does when he gets there, right? A big part of the Pacers probing offense, and a word that you'll hear me say a million times a season if you listen every day, like many of you do, thank you, is paint to great. The Pacers say it. It's kind of part of their mantra. Get to the rim, make a defense spend, work it from there with your quick passing, with your random actions, go, right? That's all great. TJ McConnell, first on the Pacers in drives per game last year, Haliburton second. Nembhard was third. Like, he has a healthy 8.4 drives per game, but he only took 3 shots per game. That's lower than Mathurin and Siakam, who drive less than him, in Siakam's case, much less, right? And he's effective when he shoots out of them, and he draws a good number of fouls. Like, a lot of his indicators of what he does on passes are pretty good, but he's not actually getting as many shots up. It's like a drive to nothing, or to keep something going, or to pass it around to someone else who keeps passing around, whatever. They're less effective than some other player drives. And it's interesting because when he gets all the way to the cup and finishes, like, think about what you think of as Andrew Nembhard's pet shots. To me, it's that elbow jumper where he kind of got his defender off balance and he just rises up and drills it, and like using his shoulder to just be strong and decelerate, which he's pretty good at. And last year he shot 73% right at the basket. That's really good. 54%, 3 to 10 feet. That's really good. His mid-range percentage is very healthy. That's all exciting. But last year he shot the fewest percentage of his overall shots from right at the rim. 16.3%. His rookie year was 16.9%. The year after was 19%. The second fewest percentage of his shots from 3 to 10 feet. He traded shots from 10 feet and in, not for threes. It was his lowest 3-point attempt rate, too, for mid-range shots and long twos. That is not the NBA right now. Like, I get that he makes them at a healthy enough rate that they're not bad shots. I'm not saying Andrew Nembhard should not take them, but his drives need to be complete to the cup for a finish, to 10 feet and in for something. I, forever ago, when I did like a micro segment on Andrew Nembhard, it might have been his rookie year, I talked about him taking one more dribble on drives, just get to the cup, score, try at least. And I know he has a lot of good shots from 15 feet in, but I think it would behoove him quite a bit from an efficiency, from keeping a possession alive perspective, from just improving his offensive game to become a better driver. Like, there was a clip of him at Siakam's little Orlando minicamp where he just uses his shoulder and just slams into J Huff and gets to the cup and score. And it's like, just do that if you can't. I mean, if you could do that every time, you would, obviously, but like, do that. A lot of that. Right? That would be a new thing for him. Not that he can't provide rim pressure, but higher volume of it would go such a long way for the Pacers and his own effectiveness. So lots of stuff for Andrew Nembhard on the offensive end. We know how great he is on defense from watching him all these years. That's all exciting. But that, my one question, doesn't even involve skills. We just heard about this. We heard the front office talking about this last week. Can he be a leader? That is the other part of point guarding that is unset or unquantifiable. My brain breaks. That's a joke. Leadership. And we heard from them that the trip to Toronto, which this should have been obvious because it was in Toronto, but I guess Mathurin could have been involved it too. Andrew Nembhard set that up. And we saw a bunch of the Pacers guards were there. Jenny Busick posted the photo on her Twitter feed, I believe. Is that how we found out? Whatever. So that's good. That's a good sign. Like, he's kind of a vet young guy, if that makes sense. He's been on the Pacers for a couple years now, several deep runs in the postseason. Like, he's an experienced young player. One, he plays very mature too. But he's not, or at least around us, like the loudest guy. If you're the lead point guard for a team trying to win, you got to be a leader. And in many ways, not just on the floor. Like, that's got to extend into the locker room. Obviously, I think personally of like the rotation guys, the oldest two will be the most important there, McConnell and Siakam. But I think Nembhard's got to have a voice, like a stronger voice than he's had in the past. And I bet he knows that. And I bet he's been challenged to do things like that because that's going to be a whole career thing for him. But not only is it important because of the role he has, with James Johnson gone, I think, at least to this point, everybody on the Pacers is going to be needed to do more of that. And I would say the biggest onus of leadership shift for the Pacers needs to come via Andrew Nembhard because of the role he now has, because of the position he now plays. You know, it's kind of thrust onto him. But he's got to do it. And we'll never be able to know what that looks like right away. We have to see it. And so I think a few weeks into the season, it'll be interesting to circle back and go, okay, what am I seeing from Andrew Nembhard as that kind of guy? Or what are teammates saying or feeling about him in that regard? Because that'll be telling about his trajectory to potentially do that someday, or potential to move into a backup 1 and starting 2 role sort of deal if McConnell ever stops being in that role, right? So lots to digest there, but I think Andrew Nembhard, big season coming. We'll learn a lot about his long-term positional look for the Pacers, what he should do, where he should be, and things like that. A lot of those things that I just talked about will be very telling when it comes to all of that. Let's get to TJ McConnell, the 33-year-old who just never slows down, or will he? Questions coming up here on Locked On Pacers. Before we get into any of that, let's talk about 5-Hour Energy. Caffeine just got a flavor upgrade. 5-Hour Energy shots deliver tasty caffeine in 17 bold flavors. Each 2-ounce shot packs the caffeine of a premium 12-ounce cup of coffee, plus B vitamins and nutrients with 0 sugar and 0 crashes. What many people love most, they're so portable. Big taste and a tiny shot. You can take it anywhere and get that boost whenever you need it. There's so many great flavors. It's refreshing. It gives everybody that quick lift before or during their busy day. It's the perfect thing for you to try next. It kicks in quickly. It's sugar-free. You don't have to worry about crashing later. So enough with the boring, flavorless caffeine. It's time to give your caffeine a flavor upgrade with 5-Hour Energy shots. Get the favorites you love, or be bold, try something new in store or online at www.5hourenergy.com. That's the number 5, or on Amazon today. We are back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making us your first listen today and every single day. Your second listen, oh man, Media Day is coming. Clippers Media Day is going to be where I have my eyes intrigued, but so many interesting things are happening. There's games this week. There are preseason games this week. If you're interested in any of those teams, the Sixers are already super injured and sad. Locked On Sixers. I mean, there's so much to go to. The NBA is officially back. Oh, okay. Let us keep going here on Locked On Pacers by talking about TJ McConnell, who's going into his, I believe, 7th season with the Pacers. Remarkable, remarkable stuff. And his role's been the same every single one of them, and it's probably going to be very similar this year. And yet, I have to start with the question for him. I just have to. I think it is like the defining thing for him basically every season of his career until he does not play in the NBA anymore. And let me say, this is a question. This is not a definitive statement that I expect this, because I said this last year and he was still very good. This is just a wondering. When, if ever, is decline going to come for TJ McConnell? My question I actually typed is, what you got, old man? He's not old. He's 33. But like, I don't think people realize that being as effective as he is at his age is extremely rare. Extremely rare. 25 players in the NBA last year, age 32 and up, played 1,400 minutes. And I use 32 because that's the age StatHead has for TJ McConnell. Their cutoff for your age and your season is like February 1st. He's one of the older guys in that group. He's 33. He turns 34 during the coming season. If you just go 34 and up, it's 16 players, and all of them are past all-stars, literally, except for Brook Lopez. Every single one is a past all-star, right? To be good into your 30s, you have to, it's hard. It's very hard. You have to have a high level of skill. And to be clear, TJ McConnell does have a high level of skill, and he does many things that no one else in the league does. His rim pressure combo and backcourt steals combo and peskiness at defense at his size, nobody does this stuff. I put stats in a story in August about how TJ McConnell is just breaking NBA norms. Can he keep doing it, right? That's the question. So I mean it sincerely. The minutes he's playing at his age is very unique and rare. Can he keep doing it, one? And how effective can he be? And if either question is no, or like he's a little worse, how much are they willing to put on him this year when it look, they say it's not a gap year. I hate that term, but like understanding that their ceiling is lower this year, what are they willing to put on him? Do they need to play a different point guard? Do they need to change anything? So he's more fresh for 2 seasons from now. All important questions with TJ. He could just be just as good, right? He played more minutes this past season than the year before that. He could be just as good. It's just the question of, can he keep doing it? And if he ever does, or when he does, as Father Time is undefeated, ever slows down, what does he need to tweak in his game to continue to be a very good player? Because he is that. He is a very good player. There's a reason he played so much and was awesome in the finals. Okay, let's get to the number part. One stat for TJ McConnell. This is something that was very interesting to me as a trend for him last season. His general finishing and his shots blocked at the rim, more specifically. His finishing 3 years ago, when it was just unbelievable, right? Everybody remembers that he just would get in the lane and flip up the 8-footer and make the jumper, right? 2 years ago, 74% at the rim from a 6-foot tall player, 53% from 3 to 10 feet, 49% from 10 to 16 feet. He got in the lane. It was just money. Sixth man of the year, he finished 7th, right? Just a lights out season 2 years ago making those shots. Then last year, he drops 8% right at the rim, a little bit from 3 to 10 feet, 4% from 10 to 16 feet, right? And they're closer to, and in some cases below, his career averages from these distances. Last year, TJ McConnell shot 51.9% from the field. That was almost his second lowest with the Pacers, just above his first season with the team. The year he got hurt and only played 27 games was the only one worse, and that one with more time might have balanced out. And a lot of what I think changed is his shots blocked at the rim. If you look at PvP stats track this percent of shots blocked at the rim, almost 12%. I think I talked about this in the show before. Almost 12% from McConnell last year. The year before that, it was 9.9. The year before that, it was 5. The year before that, it was 7, right? Clearly an upward trend coming since he got really good at probing and getting in the lane. Same with short mid-range. Last year, 5.7. The year before, 5.6. The year before, 2.3, right? There is clearly a trend here of his shot getting blocked a little more. He can't quite create the same space, 1. And 2, defenders are more prepared for the TJ McConnell experience. And so does he add more craft? Does his finishing improve a little bit? Does he actually walk himself out of some of those shots and set something else up? Or, whatever that is, whatever that evolution is, I'll be very interested because, look, he's an awesome passer. He's a very active defender. He's a good player for many, many, many reasons beyond that. He can just walk into 8-footers and flip them in, and everybody's like, yep, he should take that shot, and basically nobody else should on the team take an 8-foot jump shot from a full sprint. But at some point, that's just not a thing you can go to over and over again. And right now, he should keep going to it over and over again. Can that keep being the case for him is important because a lot of trends are showing that dipping a little bit from his just insane career 2 years ago. But importantly, I would say that is an 82-game problem because he's been awesome at them in the playoffs both years and has been such a great playoff performer that, when you get into the offseason, that question kind of fades away. You remember the playoffs. He was very good. That's great. Finishing and shots blocked will be something I'm tracking for him a lot of this season because that'll be very telling on how effective he is at the stuff that makes him so good and makes the engine of the bench so interesting. But there's another part of what I think the TJ McConnell experience is that is very interesting. And that is, and I put this in the story as well, I'm kind of recycling from my own opinions and stats here, but the Pacers bench was not as good last year. I think everybody kind of recognizes that. And I talked about the numbers a lot, like how many bench players they should be playing at what time, stuff like that. Their bench is still good, but it was worse than it was 2 years ago, and it was the best in the league. And I think part of what made them so potent and part of still what makes them potent is not only is McConnell good, but he connects well with other players, right? He and Obi Toppin immediately clicked. That helped the Pacers a lot with not having to start Toppin. Him and Shepherd are a good partnership, things like that. Mathurin's a starter now, right? Jarris presumably will take on more playmaking load here. Thomas Bryant could dribble if he got run off the 3-point line. If either Isaiah Jackson is the backup or it's just even if it shakes out as, Huff, McConnell, Shepherd, Walker, Toppin, that's a lot of shot creation load put on TJ McConnell, who last year, his points generated by assist number per game was the lowest it's been with the Pacers, period. It wasn't the lowest number total he's had with the team, but if you do it per game, it is the lowest number he's had with the Pacers, right? Can he continue to in an alignment where he will be asked to create almost everything? Jarris can handle some, right? Obi can get by. Guy certainly is very crafty, but McConnell's going to be the guard dribbling the most, especially if he's next to Shepherd. What kind of playmaking load can he manage, and what kind of chemistry can he get with that? Once again, new look second unit. And if it can't, or if it's where it was last year, that's fine. I think that bench group will be fine. And they're going to mix and match, but if it can't sustain to any extent, who do they need to play him with? Do they go 2 point guard groups with Nembhard? Then that means they have to play Delon Wright. Is it like last year where it's Siakam because then you get other playmaking and scoring on the floor? I suspect that'll be the answer. Is it that Mathurin is the first sub taken out of games and then Mathurin comes back in at some point with the second unit, right? That is a sub question of this, is how do they try to manage around that so there's not just this massive playmaking load if they hockey sub McConnell into these groups, because it's not that he's getting worse at setting up his teammates. It's just that the bench is full of different, less shot making players by shot making, I mean from their own looks, and he has to set them all up. So he's going to have to create a lot What does that mean for him? What does that mean for his teammates? How will the bench hum this season? A lot of offense for these two players who I think are pesky and good defenders, the first 2 point guards we've talked about. And the third player also thought of that way. Delon Wright, let's actually dive into him a little bit instead of just talking about the circumstance of his signing like we did last Friday with Monte Morris out the door. Let's dive into Delon Wright's game a little bit in this third and final segment here on Locked On Pacers. Before we do that, let's talk about FanDuel. The NFL season, it's here. It's been fun. Crazy tie last night. FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, if you're a new customer on FanDuel, you bet just $5. You'll get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet. Put down $5. If it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets you can use across the FanDuel app. Many people have different reasons that they absolutely love FanDuel. They give you so many ways to play. Build your parlays. You can follow the live lines during games. You can do player props. Whatever you're into, they've got it. Makes football so exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action, whether you're a casual fan, diving into your team, whether you're watching some players on your fantasy team, diving into the stats. The game day experience can be made so much better with FanDuel. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. We are back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making us your first listen today and every single day, or second listen. Locked On Suns. They had a normal media day. The Suns did. Matt Ishbia said normal things about their team, and yet I'm still very interested in the Suns. Like, kind of like that roster. It's going to be worse without KD, obviously, but it doesn't suck. Devin Booker's pretty good, guys. Locked On Suns, love more. Okay, let's wrap up here with Delon Wright and one question about Tyrese Haliburton. You thought we were talking about defensive-minded guys. Whoo-wee, is Delon Wright certainly that. Killer defender his whole career. In his 30s guy, certainly turning the corner of that potentially. Turns 30. But if the Pacers make the first round, Delon Wright will turn 34 during the playing portion of the season if he is on the team for the entire season. Obviously, he's got to make the team in training camp. Killer defender. Insane steal percentage. Like, if you want a reference point for somebody you know who gets a bunch of steals, Delon Wright's steal rate, or steal percentage, I should say, is like comparable / better in a lot of seasons than TJ McConnell's. Like, he is that level of pest, of foot speed guy, and he's got a little bit of size. I think 6'5" is probably a little bit misleading on the high side, but he has always been a pretty good defensive pest to me. If you've been listening to Locked On Pacers for forever and ever and ever, back in like the late 2010s, early 2020s, I talked about him as somebody the Pacers could think about pursuing as their backup to Malcolm Brogdon. He's obviously changed as a player since then, but he's been a good defender for a long time. And even now, as we'll talk about his offensive side of the ball, it's not the same. He's still got something on that end. His steal rate last year, 2.7%, which is actually his lowest in like a half decade. It's still pretty good. It's not what it used to be, but I think that will be the number to watch is, can he still be that level of pest when he plays in the preseason? Does he get chances to get steals? If he does, how effective is he? How pesky is he on the ball? Because again, I say this with a lot of role players. You can make threes or you can guard. There's a role for you somewhere. And I think Delon Wright can guard. So if he can continue to show that that's a thing for him, even if his offense continues to dwindle, he has some sort of role. And yet, I wonder about the offense, right? Think back to, if you've been listening for a long time, the things that I talked about that made a veteran point guard made sense to me. And why Monte Morris was like a guy I kept saying is that, to me, I understand the urge, and I still get why fans think this, like a crummy team or younger team playing young point guards. That's fine. Like, it's fine. You need them to develop. But I always wonder and think, like, what positions do you need vets at to help you? Like, you can't just throw out 5 young guys and be like, yeah, they'll figure out how to play together and be awesome. Like, you need someone to teach you or be an example. And Monte Morris, I'm not comparing these players to like diminish Delon Wright, to be clear. I'm just, they have different strengths. Monte Morris is the type of vet that I always thought that makes sense with a young team to me. If you are a young guy who's trying to figure out where to run on the court, or how to not mess up, or just generally like be a part of an offense, Monte Morris is such a good caretaker. He never turns it over. He's going to get you the ball if you're in the right place at the right time. That makes you better. That makes you learn the value of certain cuts, timing, all sorts of stuff like that, right? And that's how that guy can be good for young players and still help a team develop even though they are not a young player. And so Delon Wright is different. His defense is way better than Monte Morris's, like way better, right? Not even close. So there's still value to having him out there. In fact, what I just said about offense still applies to defense in this way. But Delon Wright's shot creation is not much of a thing, right? His assist percentage is not very good. I talked about Andrew Nembhard earlier. 15% for Delon Wright last year, even lower than that when he was playing 26 of his 40 games last season with the Bucks, right? Not setting up his teammates very often. Now, granted, that team had other players playing with him that can pass. I would imagine the Pacers usually also have a player playing with him who can pass if he's on the floor during any real minutes. His true shooting percentage at the same time, not particularly good. 44% last year, granted. Horrible with the Bucks, decent with the Knicks. And it's always been in like the mid to low 50s, but that's like below league average now, right? So if he's not really creating a ton for others and he's not really finishing his own plays at a high level, like it's not like such a bad true shooting that he should just never shoot ever. But you know, the whole thing I said about being a caretaker to help young guys doesn't really apply. So like what offensive pop can't, my one skill is like just general shot creation, which is very, very vague and maybe too vague, but he's been on the Pacers for it's official. He did sign. He's on the Pacers for all of like 2 days. I haven't really dove into him. And so how much offensive pop he can provide at point guard will be telling, because also the Pacers play a certain way. If they want to play 2 point guards together, he might have to be either a third point guard to allow the rotation to make sense or be one of those 2 guards. And so he's going to have some responsibilities if he is in the latter situation. And that is my question. Can he play as another point guard or should he for the Pacers this year? And I bring that up, one, because he has done it before. He played one season with Toronto where he played a lot with either Kyle Lowry or Fred VanVleet. That's good. He's got experience playing with pretty good guards. That season, the year he was with the Hawks, he played somewhat often with Trae Young, right? His size does, and defense makes him a valuable guard who can play next to another point guard. And he's never been asked to be really the lead guy next to them on the offensive side of the ball. So how effective he is as the skills that I just said, assist rate, turnover, true shooting percentage, all that kind of stuff, how much he's able to be a creator in any way determines if he's exclusively a depth piece who's just filling in as the reserve one when the Pacers want to play 2 point guards together and need some other minutes soaked up at the one, or if he can be one of those guards playing in 2 guard lineups that actually makes it possible for him to be like a backup if Shepherd gets hurt or something, or if Mathurin gets hurt, Shepherd starts and Delon Wright also plays. And I know a lot of you listening will say just play for a fee, and I would agree. But it's like just having that versatility and optionality adds a lot of importance to your team. And so I do wonder if Delon Wright has any other, how well can he play with another point guard given the stuff I just said about his shot creation? I think it'll be very telling to see what his season looks like. If he's more of a depth piece, if he's more of a defense-only piece, we'll learn a lot about him in the next couple of weeks in training camp. I was going to do a Tyrese Haliburton segment for this. If they didn't sign a point guard, and I would never have been able to come up with a stat or a skill because he's not playing in games. So I would have had a question. This is perfect because I have a couple minutes to kill at the end, so I'll still ask it. What does Tyrese Haliburton learn or get out of this season? Right? He's not going to play. His abilities will not be the focus in any sort of way, but you don't take nothing out of this. Isaiah Jackson gained some muscle during his Achilles tear. Ben Mathurin worked a lot on his right hand, whatever. The opposite of his torn labrum, which I can't remember which one it was. I think it was his right labrum tear. You used his left hand. It got better when he was hurt, right? So that's like an actual basketball part of this is like you have a torn Achilles. What can you do with your upper body that helps you? NBA player Tyrese Haliburton. But I don't even necessarily mean that. I mean, what do you get out of just watching your team 82 plus times? Does it help you see their tendencies? Do you learn a lot about how other guys like to lead and play? What does Tyrese Haliburton get out of this season from a basketball perspective? I know that seems very generic, but it's not a lost season completely for him, right? He's not playing. The team is worse. All that is in theory an air quotes lost season. But what does he walk away that he is better from still? That will be something for him. And something we can talk about next year when he does play. Today's Media Day. Thank you again, everybody, for listening in the offseason here on Locked On Pacers. But now we can talk about real stuff. They'll talk to us on Monday. They'll practice on Tuesday, and then it's rolling their first preseason games in less than 10 days. Real Pacers hoops that we'll learn about what they're doing and where they're going. Thank you all so much for listening today to me yap about the point guards who we will hear from on Monday. You can find this podcast on Instagram and Twitter at Locked On Pacers. And I'm on social media at Tony R. He's tweeting a lot about the Fever, who have a Game 5 to go to the finals themselves on Tuesday. I'll actually be in Vegas for that game, so I will do my best to be at every Pacers practice this week, but it might be tight with some flights. We'll see. Thank you all so much for listening today, though. Back tomorrow, reacting to Media Day, hopefully with a guest. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We'll see ya very soon.